Yeah, thanks very much, Tim, and thanks to everyone for tuning in. I'm here to give you a very brief update on Auroch Minerals and our very exciting portfolio of high-grade nickel sulfide assets, in particular our most recent acquisition, the Nepean Nickel Project. So a quick overview of the corporate structure before I get into the projects. Relatively tight structure with only 270 million shares on issue and a great cash position of about $4 million. Key to note, in addition to that, there's around 40 million options held predominantly by a core group of investors. Many of these are top 20 shareholders. These have a 10-cent strike that expire in November this year. So effectively, we should see another 4 million in the kitty over the next 9 months. So we're really fully funded to maintain our aggressive exploration programs this year and well into 2022. So next slide, please. So what are we trying to achieve? Well, I guess our mission and what we're committed to is trying to get to that magical 100,000 tonnes of contained nickel in resource. We're very confident we can do this over the next 12 months, but certainly that's the key target that we're working towards. So how are we going to do this? First of all, through acquisition. We've carefully selected all of our assets and they all meet a set of very strict criteria within a globally significant nickel belt. Through growth, focused stream of resource drilling this year to define maiden JORC 12 resources at both Nepean and Leinster, and as well as that, upgrade our Saints resource to an indicated resource level. This then leads into the development phase and taking advantage of the significant processing infrastructure within trucking distance of all three of our projects. And we look to create value for our shareholders. So we're in advanced talks and agreements with strong partners such as BHP, as well as the focused exploration programs that we believe will lead to further significant discoveries of high quality nickel sulfide deposits. Next slide. So this is a quick snapshot of our very exciting base metals portfolio in Australia with a focus on our nickel sulfide assets in Western Australia, Nepean, Leinster and Saints. The table outlines the main criteria that I mentioned that we use to carefully select these assets. So all three are located in an endowed nickel sulfide belt. That is the Norseman Wiluna Greenstone Belt. They're all Kambalda style komatitic nickel sulfide deposits. All three have existing high-grade nickel sulfide resources, albeit that the Nepean and Horn resources are historic JORC 4 estimates. All have significant thick high-grade nickel sulfide drilling intercepts at shallow depths that highlight how the existing resources can really be increased incrementally by step-off drilling, along strike and down plunge. And all have exciting high quality exploration targets with real potential for new nickel sulfide discoveries, and many of these have never even been explored before. Next slide. As I mentioned, location was an extremely important attribute that we looked at, and hence all three of our projects are located within the Norseman Wiluna Greenstone Belt, which for me is one of the best places globally to be exploring for massive nickel sulfide mineralisation. Projects are directly along strike for some very large, very high grade producing nickel sulfide mines. And I guess with that comes the existing infrastructure. So all of our projects are within trucking distance of no less than 5 existing processing plants, 3 of which are owned by BHP. Our projects all have excellent access by road and the close proximity to Kalgoorlie, the regional mining centre of WA, which provides mining support to the whole region. And that's where we have our base office and core yard facilities. The belt still has enormous exploration potential. There's kilometres and kilometres of untested ultramafic stratigraphy and or geophysical anomalies, and much of this has never been explored with modern day exploration techniques. So a pretty exciting place to be for new nickel sulfide discoveries. Next slide. So taking a closer look at our project, starting with the exciting Nepean Nickel Project, quite an iconic mine, being the second operating nickel mine in Australia, mining over 32,000 tonnes of contained nickel at 3%, from 1970 to 1987, when the nickel price fell to only $4,000 a tonne. There's a remnant resource there in the mine calculated in 2008, which has over 13,000 tonnes of contained nickel at a very high grade 2.2% nickel, which you can see here on the right. But importantly, there's real potential immediately along strike and at depth to build on that existing resource. So if you look at the next slide, just to add a bit of colour around the depth potential of Nepean. Nepean at its steepest point reaches around 500 metres from surface. Excuse me. There are cross-cutting pegmatite veins all through the mine area, but they hit a large flat-lying pegmatite vein at the base of the mine and stopped. And this for us drew an immediate analogy to Flying Fox, which you see there on the right. Outokumpu back in the day mined 8,000 tonnes of nickel from Flying Fox before they hit a flat-lying pegmatite, and they stopped as well. So Western Areas picked up Flying Fox in 2003, and via some drilling and geophysics and downhole EM, they found the continuation of the massive nickel sulfides below that pegmatite. And as you can see from this diagram, they've since mined over 100,000 tonnes of nickel, and they're down below 1,200 metres from surface, and they're still going. So it really highlights, as you can see, that untested area below Nepean really highlights the significant potential for OROC to add, and quite significantly add, to the existing Nepean resource. Next slide. The two other key areas of Nepean that we're really confident that can add and build on our existing resources. Firstly, in 2008, some drilling intersected a very high-grade zone of massive nickel sulfides at less than 50 metres from surface. It's about 200 metres south of the existing mine, and then that was never really followed up. So you may have seen from our announcement yesterday, we're currently a third of the way through a 3,500 metre RC drill program. First 10 holes were drilled to test the extents of this high-grade zone, this high-grade mineralisation, and to see if it joins back to the main ore bodies of the historic mine. So those samples are in the lab, and the first results are expected very soon. The other main focus of the drilling is really the main focus of all of our projects, and that's the 10 kilometres of untested strike to the north and the south of the mine. It's an excellent aeromag anomalies and or ultramafic stratigraphy extending the whole length of the tenement package, and the majority of this has never even seen a drill hole. So the rest of this current program will focus on the highest priorities of these targets to be drill tested and then surveyed with high-powered downhole EM. Just quickly, we also intend to explore the excellent gold and even lithium potential of this tenure, but we will use specialist contractors for these studies so that our geological team stays focused on the main nickel sulfide exploration. Slide 10, thanks. Moving on to our Leinster Nickel project, again, we have that great combination of known, shallow, high-grade, massive nickel sulfide mineralisation at the Horn, with some really high potential underexplored targets like North Sinclair, Firefly, Valdez. Recent drilling at the Horn, we confirmed the thick, high-grade, massive nickel sulfides less than 150 metres from surface, so very shallow, over a strike of 500 metres. But what that drilling and then the subsequent downhole EM surveys we did has really shown us is that mineralisation is very clearly modelled by the magnetic high anomalies you can see there in the image, with the mineralisation really wrapping around the high and following the red edge you can see there. So the exciting thing about that is we have another four to five mag high ellipses to the northwest and another 2 to 3 to the southeast, and all of these have the potential to be another Horn, and yet none of those have been drilled historically. So pretty keen to get drilling into those mag highs. So we have a 3,000 metre RC program planned for this quarter to test those mag anomalies along strike, and as well as to get some holes into those greenfields targets that I mentioned earlier. And then later this year, we'll look to upgrade the Horn to a maiden JORC 12 resource. Next slide. Our third project, our third nickel asset is the Saints Nickel project, which has the largest and the most advanced resource of our three, with over 21,000 tonnes of nickel at 2% nickel, one of the highest grade resources currently on the ASX behind the main producers and behind Mincor. The resource is fresh, high grade, massive sulfides from only 40 metres depth from surface, so an attractive resource as it is, but again with that great potential, great exploration potential to really build on this resource. Now the main game at Saints is to find that feeder channel to the nickel rich system, which the vast majority of known nickel sulfide deposits in this Norseman and the Greenstone belt have. So the probability of it being somewhere in such a nickel rich system is very high. And it's just a matter of systematically exploring the possible channels to vector in on it. And this is where we can really add some significant tonnes and grade to the resource relatively quickly. So we have a further 2,000 metre drill program this quarter to do just that. But starting next quarter will be a significant resource drill out program to advance the Saints resource to an indicated category so we can begin scoping studies and start looking forward to possible development and production. Slide 12. So looking ahead, a very busy year and certainly a very busy first quarter with significant drill programs at all three projects, targeting both resource and near resource targets, as well as potential greenfields discoveries. As mentioned, we're working to upgrade the Saints resource this year, as well as to find maiden JORC 12 resources at both Nepean and Leinster. and we'll continue to advance our negotiations with strong partners like BHP for toll treating and then possible offtake agreements. With such a busy program, we're in the process of bulking out our teams by adding more project geologists and a CFO, and we're also looking to add a strategic NED to the board with a wealth of nickel sulfide experience. So a big year and resulting, I guess, in plenty of positive news flow throughout the year. Next slide. So just finally, I'd like to touch on the nickel price. Obviously, we're very bullish on the nickel price, and the traditional stainless markets seem to be very upbeat at the moment. I guess with a lot of construction stimulus happening globally because of the pandemic, and major price forecasters such as S&P Global upgrading their nickel price forecast every month for the last 3 months consecutively. So very bullish on the nickel price. However, it's really the EV disruption that's coming, as Keith has been talking about. And that really provides the major boost for the longer term nickel price. And on that note, it becomes much more about class 1 nickel that you get from clean, high grade, massive nickel sulfide ore compared to the nickel pig iron and the nickel laterites, which produce an inferior product. So it's the class 1 nickel that we are targeting, and that's where the large supply deficit is forecast for the coming years. So that puts us really in a great position to take advantage of that nickel price and that class 1 nickel price. Next slide. So thanks very much for listening today. Please get in touch if you have any further questions.
Thanks, Aidan. Just got someone knocking at the door. What a question. How do you pick up such great assets when you're kind of surrounded by majors?
It's a good question, but we certainly took our time. As I said, we've been focused on Australian-based metals projects. We have some great copper zinc projects in South Australia that we were certainly focused on, but the team always was looking for a nickel sulfide project. I have good experience as a geologist back in the day in nickel sulfides. And so we really took our time and set that criteria of what we wanted to look into that belt. And I guess certainly with Saints and Leinster, it was just a case of previous owner really wanting to focus on gold and the East Coast. But I guess it's often the case, a lot of this land holding was first WMC and then onwards, some larger companies had large land holdings. And then once you do make that discovery and start developing that resource and then eventually into a mine, a lot of those really good exploration targets that are in the rest of the tenure just kind of get forgotten about. And so it's a case of building up a significant land position in that belt again and really attacking these forgotten targets. And I guess the other main thing in that respect is, downhole EM and even ground EM, for example, the geophysical techniques have come a long way. Certainly over the last 5 years, I think EM's using now 10 times the current it did 5 years ago, much less 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So the modern day exploration techniques that we use are that much more high powered and you can use and see that much more. So a lot of deposits that might have gone under the nose of previous explorers are now being found. And
talking about acquisitions, is your target? Are there some target acquisitions to kind of aggregate your resource? This is the question, or is it more attractive to do some bold step out or deeper drilling on existing assets as a better allocation for your capital?
Certainly, I think we've got more than enough on our plate as is. So we've certainly identified some really high potential exploration targets. I think as good a target as that there is in Western Australia at the moment. And we certainly need to do the hard yards geologically and get stuck into those targets. A lot of that grunt work might be surface sampling first and then air core and ground geophysics and really develop those targets and then follow up with drilling. And we do have, I guess, which really puts us ahead of most of our peers, is we do have those base resources, high grade, massive sulfide resources on all 3 projects. So, we do have something tangible to start with and build upon. So really focused on the tenure we've got now, but always looking, if the opportunity arises, then, we'll take it.
And just finally, you've got a kind of a busy exploration period. There's a bit of a chatter. Investors always want to see results. What can investors expect moving forward?
Certainly, so in the next week to 2 weeks, we should have the first batch of results from our current drilling program. Obviously, it's quite a large program. So for the next really 6 weeks, I guess we'll have results coming through. Then we'll have the program back up at the Horn ready to go. Obviously with COVID, and I guess with the quite intense exploration for gold, lithium and nickel, amongst other things throughout Western Australia, the suppliers such as drill rigs and labs are getting quite full. So we've actually been just about to lock in our drill rig for the next 12 months. So we have a rig locked in for the next 12 months. So we can really just push forward. We've got the cash, then we have the rig, we've got the people, just really concentrate on pushing forward. The rig's a multi-rig, so we'll have that flexibility of drilling RC and diamond when required.
Great, Aidan. Thanks for your time. Great presentation. We'll keep an eye on Auric Minerals.
Great. Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having us.
That's all we have time for this week. Thanks again for everyone for logging in. Next week, we have Silver Mines coming on, genetic signatures, BPH Energy, and a keynote presentation. So see you then.